Hello and welcome to Merlins Brick News, the weekly show on all things brick building, where we talk about set updates and announcements, general industry news, and MOCs of the week as well. Information is, as always, presented by setdb.org, the best source for set information on the internet. And this is where we are actually going to go. And we will start in alphabetical order through the brands with BlueBrixx. And here we have now availability again over here in Europe of the Messeturm Frankfurt. That is, as you might guess, in the city of Frankfurt, in the center of Europe, center of Germany. Actually, that's our kind of commercial city, financial city, like German's versions, very, very tiny version actually, of London City maybe, or New York. And there is one of the central large buildings in this city is this Messeturm. Actually, this is a set back from 2020. And BlueBrixx had this not on the shelves for several years now, and now it's back. We're talking about the 101978. You already see from the number, we at 107 nowadays. That this is actually an old one, but it's back. BlueBrixx, I think, is still asking for 80 euros. As always in Europe, I will say this only once today, I promise. In Europe, always including tax. I know that there are some regions like North America where this is actually different, but keep this in mind if you want to do comparisons and are not from Europe. Anyhow, BlueBrixx is asking for 80 euros still. I think that is the same price from 3 years ago for the 2,263 pieces. That's 3.5 cents a piece. Not too shabby. What is also available, and this is actually a new building, also from the skyscrapers collection, if you will, the Taipei 101, the 105783 by BlueBrixx. 5,068 pieces. So yes, this big boy is slightly taller. And actually, don't keep in mind, this is a 1x500. So this is not what Lego, for instance, has used in the past. They, I think, used for the Empire State. They used, I think, 1x800 roughly. So this is actually a lot bigger. This thing goes beyond a meter in height. Don't underestimate the building. And yeah, it's designed by Anton. BlueBrixx is asking for 190 euros, 3.7 cents a piece. I think it's a cool building with a cool building technique. However, keep in mind from the building experience point of view, obviously, with most skyscrapers, there's a lot of repetition in the build. I know a couple of folks who are really thinking about buying this one, but yeah, I think a lot of folks are shying away from the building effort themselves. Nevertheless, I personally have no problem with that. The main issue I would have with this one is simply its size. But nevertheless, I think it looks really cool. And yeah, I think it's maybe the set on Earth, one of the biggest sets. Actually, BlueBrixx has done another skyscraper before that was very similar, but this could be one of the biggest sets on the planet using trans blue pieces. Anyhow, let's move on through another ModBrixx set that BlueBrixx has announced. So from their sub-brand ModBrixx, that they are now, actually that was a company they acquired a couple of months ago, and they are now moving over the entire portfolio into their own portfolio. And this one is another one. This is actually a German artillery piece from the German army forces called PZH Panzerhaubitze 2000, I think. Actually, that is one thing that is also currently in the war effort or the defense effort of the Ukraine. It's actually used by them, and we are talking about the BlueBrixx set 107598. It has only 593 pieces. As always, I think I've talked about this before in the past. Keep always in mind, yes, this is a BlueBrixx set. Yes, this is a German tank, but it is not the German, let's say, Bundeswehr Defense Force line of BlueBrixx. This is from the ModBrixx part. I'm saying this because this thing has for sure a different scale. So BlueBrixx has a big line of army vehicles from the German Bundeswehr. However, this is 1x30 in scale. This thing here is for sure smaller. I'm pretty sure about that. Actually, they don't say anything about the scale, but if you look at it, I think it's like it's 8 studs. So this thing is smaller. It may fit with certain Cobi lines, but I'm not sure there either. So maybe you should do the math yourself with which kind of vehicles this could fit. Also, a big comparison to the BlueBrixx Bundeswehr line is, of course, this thing does not include any pet printed pieces. Anyhow, let's move on to the BlueBrixx Garage Workshop, the 107083. This is 1x18 scale. It's only an announcement at this point in time, like the Panzerhaubitze 2000 is. And actually, so this is, I guess, for the vehicle lineup that BlueBrixx has themselves. So they have a lot of vehicles, system, brick-built vehicles, so non-Technic vehicles actually, that are in this scale. So I think this is the idea that you have here, a display diorama, if you will, where you could throw your vehicles in. Just keep in mind it's 1x18. So for instance, 1x12, like Cobi is doing, won't fit in here. I'm not sure if a creator vehicles of Lego would fit in here. For sure, it's too big for Speed Champion. So this is not minifigure scale. This is for sure bigger. So certain creator vehicles like the Fiat 500, I'm just thinking you may be able to throw in here. But yeah, I'm not sure. Can't say for sure. Anyhow, 1x18 scale garage workshop by BlueBrixx at this point in time. Only announcement. Usually, by the way, this is a BlueBrixx special. Between announcement and actually release, usually it's like 6 months in between. Keep that in mind. Governor's Island, Place of Execution. Oh my, what an awful title for this set. So this is another extension of BlueBrixx pirate line concept, if you will. So the way this works, I don't know if I've reported on this before here on this show, but in a nutshell, you have, first of all, of course, they have pirates versus, the government, the military, the Marines, whatever you may call it. And both lines have several sets that are, however, entirely modular. So I'm pretty sure they have a picture here as well. Let me just check. Yeah, here you can see a picture. So this is like 3 or 4 sets. However, this arrangement that you see here right now is just, this is entirely up to you, because no, actually, they don't have a picture. Maybe they have one here. Let me just check. Yeah, here you see. These sets are usually, between 5, 6 to 9 modules connected through Technic pins. And that means basically it's entirely up to you what you want to create. More islands, a harbor, fortress, whatever you want to do. And for that, you have a couple of sets that you can choose from, including a couple of pure expansion packs. Like, for instance, this Pergola expansion. So I don't know. I think there are 4 or 5 different sets, and you can always arrange them the way you want. And of course, you can buy multiples of each of them. Anyhow, this is the newest extension, the 107599, with the horrible title. It has 1,468 pieces, or I should rather say is going to have, because again, this is just an announcement. And then we have a European Fire Brigade vehicle, the TM90. 90 actually stands for 90 meters in height. So this thing is enormous. My understanding is that this is for specialized fire brigades, for instance, around power plants, stuff like that, stuff that is extremely high. So I guess this is a rare sight. In reality, I guess not many fire brigades have one of those bad boys. This set by BlueBrixx has 842 pieces. It is 44 centimeters in length. So, however, look into it. I think this is minifigure scale. So, I don't know if you have a city where you could throw this one in. I guess it's more like if you have something like an industrial park yourself in your city, you could throw in one of these bad boys. Obviously, it's also a nice display vehicle just on its own, even if you don't throw it into a city, simply because it's so huge. But yeah, it's enormous. And with that, we are coming actually to the lineup I talked about before from BlueBrixx, the Bundeswehr line. And here we have the Patriot system missile carrier. Obviously, Patriot is, I think, I don't know which company is making them. Anyhow, it's made in the US, right? So obviously, a lot of NATO companies and others as well have this thing in service. So obviously, you could maybe also rearrange it a little bit. Nevertheless, the entire truck, and of course, you also have, let's say, German painting, German license plate. So I think it's not that easy to transfer into a, different fighting force. But nevertheless, it is, I guess, definitely in the cards. Anyhow, this is also an announcement. The 107286. It's going to have 1,612 pieces. And like I mentioned before, it's 1x30 scale. Keep please also in mind, this is not a scale that Cobi is doing, so you can't really throw them together, which is very unfortunate. I've complained about this in the past. With that, we're moving on to CaDA, and here we have now announced and available in CaDA's own store at least the 62005, the 2008 Citroën C4 WRC rally vehicle, I guess. This one is designed by Markus Schlegel. He has worked with CaDA in the past. He has done the excellent London Taxi, and of course, a big fan favorite for quite a while, the classic sports car. So this is his third collaboration with CaDA, this time with a license set with Citroën. Actually, CaDA has done a much smaller version of this car in the past. So this one is now a lot bigger. It's 1/12 in scale. Like I said, unfortunately, because this thing would be great in the garage by BlueBrixx, but like I said, BlueBrixx is aiming for 1/18 and this is 1/12. So this is not going to fit. Anyhow, this thing is 32 centimeters in length, 11.5 in height and 14 wide, 1,569 pieces plus electrics, because always keep that in mind. Markus Schlegel, I think he's quite famous for his designs of combining Technic and system bricks. So, I mean, Lego is doing this sometimes a little bit as well, like they did in the Land Rover. However, CaDA, of course, is going here together with Markus the extra mile and putting in electrics. So this thing can actually drive around. At least in the past, for instance, I've built the Suzuki Jimny Jeep. No, it's not a Jeep, it's Suzuki, but Jimny, I don't know, a four-wheeler in the past. And there, at least the electric was also optional. So you could buy with or without. And I think the London Taxi was the same. So CaDA has done these before. And usually could choose. However, at this point in time, it seems, at least to me, that you can buy... No, you can buy both versions. Okay, I got this wrong. So what ZTB is saying, talking about, is the motorized version. You can get the non-motorized for 40 bucks less, which I think is fair, right? And I actually should work on getting both of them into ZTB. Anyhow, here we go. And with that, we're moving on to Cobi. And here we have now, at least over here in Europe, availability of the Dornier DO17Z2 version. Actually, I think I've talked about this before. The big difference is that now we are available, at least over here in Europe. You pay around 83 bucks. That's 6 cents a piece. And yeah, I've talked about this one before. I mean, the Second World War airplane, but yeah, Cobi is doing, as always, quite an excellent job here. With that, we move on to Lego. And here we had a couple of announcements, especially yesterday. Lego was quite busy. And let's start with the auspicious, I think. Sometimes my English is leaving me here, but anyhow, it's a dragon. It's the 8112. It has 1,171 pieces, and Lego is selling these for 90 bucks US, 7 cents a piece. In Europe, it's actually 10 bucks less, and in the UK, it's 70 quid. Anyhow, let's take a look at this. I mean, in general, I really like the design. I think Lego has done an amazing job here. The only thing I really don't like are the ball joints in dark bluish gray. We have seen this in the past. I remember the awful light bluish gray issue that the T-Rex had in this Jurassic Park diorama that they did, I think, beginning of last year. I recall that. It's a problem, and I think it should not have happened here. I mean, this ball joint should have been definitely in, I guess this is pearl gold. Or at least in tan, but not in dark bluish gray. So that's a fail. But next to that, assuming that the next to night shields are pad printed, I think they have never done stickers for those, if I recall correctly. Anyhow, I assume their scales are pad printed. Then I think it's overall a great and beautiful package. And I think, yeah, there was this picture as well. I really like the picture from this angle. I think this could really go on a high shelf, something like that, because it just also from below it looks really amazing. I mean, this bad boy looks a bit scary, and that is great, obviously. But all in all, great job by the Lego design team. Really like this one. What I like even more, because it is at least over here in Europe, very cost efficient. I have actually no idea what happened here. I mean, you have always price gaps between, or differences sometimes between North America and Europe, but this is huge, right? This thing, and again, this includes tax in the EU. This is a lot cheaper than it is in the US. However, both prices are quite good, I would say. Even the 130 bucks in the US is still a good price, but I would say Europeans have a much easier time here. In the UK, it's 90 quid, and in the EU, it's around 100 euros. And I think that is actually quite a steal. I mean, I don't know. I can't recall one Lego. Even the Ideas Viking Village is not as good as this one is, because yes, you have a lot of stickers, I think, based on the pictures that I see here. But you have, for this price, this building, 1,800 pieces, which is enormous. I think in Europe that makes 5.5 cents per piece. I don't know when we have seen this last time in a set this size. And you have also a couple of pet printed pieces in here, like if you look at these lanterns, for instance, these are for sure pet printed, and you have 13 minifigures. Some of them have a new torso as far as I can tell. So yeah, these sets, they're just great. Family reunion celebration, did I mention the number? The 80113. And again, 1,823 pieces. I mean, it's not a full-blown modular. By means, yes, it is a modular building, but the back wall is not there. Actually, I can almost bet, especially over here in Europe, where it's so cheap, that there will be like a bazillion rebrickable MOCs and stuff. Basically, okay, buy this set twice and make this a full-blown modular. And actually, if you buy this twice, you will have, 3,600 pieces. I mean, I'm not saying just build this building 2 times and just throw it together, but actually, create something new out of the pieces. This should be really easy for talented alternate builders, and I'm really expecting to see this. I definitely want to buy this one or build this because it looks so cool, and like I said, it's unbelievable that Lego can still do these kind of prices nowadays. Anyhow, let's move on to Lego Friends, and here the Hot Lake City shopping mall has been announced. By the way, these sets are all 1st of January 2024. And we are talking now about the 42604 from Lego Friends. It is actually the same price this time, both in the US and in Europe. It's 120, and in the UK it's 105 British pounds. Pound sterling. You British have so many different terms for your money. Anyhow, we just call our stuff euros, and we are fine with that. But yeah, you have pound sterling, British pound, Great British pound. Is that GBP, right? And a lot of British folks I know are just saying quid. Anyhow, let's move on to Friends Hot Lake City shopping mall. It's actually quite a large build, obviously, like with most Friends buildings. It's using a lot of large panels to get to this size. But yeah, I mean, there's a shopping mall. It's a typical Friends building, nothing special. However, it is one of the larger ones, I would argue. I mean, let me just check. Yeah, so there are a couple of sets that are bigger. The beach amusement park, however, I would argue it maybe has just smaller pieces. Community center, obviously this is almost like a full-blown building. The Main Street building is bigger, and of course the new downtown flower and design stores. Yeah, I would say the shopping mall is more traditional Friends design, by means less bricks, more panels, if you will. But here, anyhow, here we go. And let's move on to Monkey Kid Megapolis City 5th Anniversary Edition, the 80054. This thing has 2,330 pieces. And it is, again, in the US, slightly more expensive than in Europe. Actually, how's Lego doing this, right? Some sets are the same. I mean, euro against dollar, of course. And sometimes there are a big difference. Here's a small difference. Lego is asking for 180 in the EU, 190 in the US, and 160 in the UK. That makes, at least US price-based, 8.2 cents a piece. And I think it's really looking great. I mean, for me, it has a strong Ninjago City Gardens vibe, with the tower and the antenna and everything. And by the way, I should mention, I've never seen any episodes of Monkey Kid. I know almost nothing about it, but looking at the design, yes, it is like City Gardens, but I think that's a good thing because City Gardens was an amazing set. And however, it is smaller, so I mean, it's not a cheap set, but it's for sure more affordable than City Gardens ever was. And because it is a Monkey Kid set, it's highly modular. I mean, this is the mother of all modulars, right? Because you can, I don't know, split it into, how much is it? 15 different modules? Which is great. I mean, this is an amazing concept that they have going on with Monkey Kid. I really like it. And the cool thing is that all the modules, I mean, at least most of them, I mean, if you look at all these rooms, they all make sense on their own, right? You could easily throw them just in a line on a shelf and still have a ton of fun with it. And I think that is great, both for kids as well as for grown-up collectors. Huge minifigure lineup, as always, with Monkey Kid. It's a bit extreme, I would say. Again, as somebody who doesn't really know the license, what I really like is these hoodie guy in the center here. And again, I have no idea who he is, so excuse my ignorance. But what is interesting is the headpiece. I'm not really sure. I mean, in general, it could be a base cap combined with a hoodie, which would be an amazing mold. However, I have the slight feeling just by looking at this picture, unfortunately, this is the best picture I could find, that the headpiece is part of this entire thing, which would be very unfortunate because, yeah, if not, I think this would be a great piece to combine with other hats as well. But again, I honestly don't know. But having this cap hoodie combination is at least something that I have not witnessed or seen before. Anyhow, I think it's a great set. Price wise, yeah, I would have loved this to be a little bit cheaper, but I mean, it's the way it is. Anyhow, let's move on. We have also availability, and in this case of Super Mario Piranha Plant, I don't know, is it pronounced like that? 71426 is now available, and you can buy it from Lego for $60 US or 58 British pound, or in the EU, you can buy it. There are a couple of retailers who have it for around 49 to 50 bucks. Lego actually itself is for this thing asking more in the EU. In the EU, in this case, it's 65 bucks for whatever reason. Anyhow, it's just the way it is. It's quite strange how Lego is doing the pricing, internationally speaking. Anyhow, that's what we're here for, to show you these differences. And then let's move on to 2 additional announcements for January 1st. In this case, it's Jurassic World, the Baby Dinosaur Rescue Center, 76963. I'm pretty sure a lot of folks will buy this thing, not for the minifigures, not for the build, just for the dinosaurs. There are actually 5 of them in there, if I see this correctly, a flying one, and 4 land dwellers. We have 2 minifigures as well, a couple of pet printed pieces. We have the egg, we have the solar collector. So yeah, all in all, I think, I mean, it's a 4+ set, so it means from a price per piece perspective, it's going to be awful. But I still believe that this thing is not a bad offer, because there's a lot of these dinosaurs, and getting these one, individually is not easy as well. Anyhow, Lego is asking for more or less the same price everywhere. US and Europe, it's 40 bucks and 35 in the UK. And with that, we're moving on to a set that I'm actually quite interested in. And this is the Jurassic World Dinosaur Fossils T-Rex Skull, the 76964. It's going to have 577 pieces. Again, January 1st is release, and it is in Europe and the US 40 bucks and 35 in the UK as well. So price per piece, actually not too shabby, 6.9 cents a piece, which is okay. I mean, especially if you look at the teeth of the skull, I mean, these are small pieces, but nevertheless, I think it's quite okay. What I personally, I'm not really sure if I'm happy with the plaque. It's a sticker, that's for one. Obviously, this is like kind of a metal look that, of course, it's very hard to do with a pet printed set. Plus, I mean, Lego is almost never printing these things. I mean, we are happy now that we have this since last year Ferrari Technic set, right? Plus the UCS set since this year are pet printed. But I think it would be very hard for Lego to do this golden plaque. So I can live with a sticker here. However, personally, as being maybe interested in the skull, but not that much in the Jurassic World brand, I would have preferred if they would have, I don't know, split this sticker so that you can, skip the Jurassic World logo, which I personally don't really need here, or even better, have 2 stickers in the box. I mean, they may have. I actually don't know. I haven't opened the box. I mean, I haven't bought that yet. But having this plaque basically in a second version as well, without the logo, would be really, really great, but I fear not. Anyhow, with that, we're moving on to, let's do this very briefly, also 2 announcements for the Super Mario game. In this case, it's an expansion set for the Penguin Family Snow Adventure. It will have 228 pieces. Lego is asking for 20 bucks basically, or 18 in the UK. And then we have Super Mario Nebbit at Toads. What is he called? Toad, I think, right? Shop. And again, it's an expansion set, i.e. you need the original game. I think there's a Mario version, a Luigi version, and I think a third one. And so you need one of these core games, and then you can throw in as many expansions as you want. So this is the 71429 It's also, again, going to cost 20 bucks, basically 18 in the UK, and it's 230 pieces. With that, we're moving on to Mega, and here we have now more availability of the Masters of the Universe sword. Actually, Schwert is entirely wrong. That's German. I will fix that. I think it's called the Power Sword. Yeah, it's the Power Sword. HMY 95. It has 805 pieces, and Mattel, at least over here in Europe, is asking for 96 bucks, and I think in the UK you can buy it through Amazon, and there's currently a discount, and so you pay 80 quid in the UK. I haven't found a listing in the US yet, but let's see. 805 pieces, like I said. As always with Mega, I think the interesting part here is not only having the sword, but of course the Mega pieces, because they use a different color scheme than most of the other brands, and the sword itself is actually in a silver metallic kind of look, and they're using quite large metallic flags. Let me just, you can see this here. So it's a very unique design and a unique look that Mattel has going on here. And yeah, here we go. With that, we're moving on to Mould King, and there we have in China the first listing of the 13184. Mould King calls it the Wrangler. I guess they want to make clear that this is supposed to be a Jeep, but as always, they don't have any licensing deals going on. Anyhow, this thing has 3,621 pieces. It's 1/6 scale, so that's not too shabby. And in China, you can buy it, I guess, including shipping, for around 150 bucks, 140 maybe. At this point in time, of course, that means without a box and everything. So I think it will take a while until we see this with local retailers around the world as well. And in fact, Mould King doesn't even have a listing yet. Anyhow, this thing is, I think, quite interesting. First of all, it's a huge build, right? It's a 1/6 scale Technic vehicle. So this thing is going to be enormous. It seems they have done new tires. At least I haven't seen these tires before. And if you look here on top of the tires, there are also a couple of new or special design pieces. So yeah, Mould King put in quite some effort. Yeah, I think it looks quite interesting. Definitely interested in this one, and however, 1/6 cars are usually enormous. Anyhow, we're moving on to Christmas, and here we have the Christmas tree music box by Mould King, the 10090. Currently, it's only available for Mould King itself. There is an Amazon US listing, but it says currently unavailable, so I think it will take a while. More, this thing is $35 US, and I think the interesting part is that it seems almost all of the pieces are in trans color. So this is quite special. Thanks God they put this this glass, what is it called? Glass hood on top. Let me call it like this. And that, of course, makes sure that you don't have too many dust problems. On the other hand, the piece itself, I guess you have to clean it quite often. And the question is, how is it going to look if you have to clean it like dozens of times? It's like, I mean, yeah, it's like all these bottle sets, like the one that Lego has done in the past, or Mould King is also doing these bottle sets. The problem, I think, in the long run is if you have to clean it quite often, all the scratches. This is very soft plastic material, so yeah, I don't know what the longevity of these kind of sets is, but it looks quite nice. If that is your cup of tea. With that, we're moving on. Let me skip this one. This was a mistake on my side. Let me remove this, because this was availability only in Germany. With that, we are moving on to a couple of announcements. So we have seen the first time now in the new Reobrix fighting air jets lineup, let's call it that way. I've talked about these in the past, like they have an F-14, F-22, F-35, F-19, E-2. So they have a ton of stuff here, and now we have a couple of Soviet airplanes. We have the MiG-29, or nowadays Ukrainian, Russian. I mean, there are so many countries operating MiG-29s, but obviously this is a Soviet-era airplane. This thing here by Reobrix is going to have, I should rather say, there's only one European retailer who has announced that they will get this in stock. But obviously, I expect to see this with much more retailers going forward. Nevertheless, this thing is going to have 1,387 pieces, 48 centimeters in length, 34 in width, and 15 in height. As always with these fighter jets, I'm almost never a fan of the, almost never. I think the F-22 is okay, but very often they have problems with the nose, if you ask me. Usually I don't really like them. The Cobi approach of making custom pieces for the nose is, from my point of view, preferable. But yeah, we just saw it in the Concorde by Lego. Lego also was going for standard pieces. I don't know, usually the nose of these very fast airplanes is kind of an issue because not very natural to the typical brick molds that we have available. Anyhow, here we go with the MiG-29, and then we have an Su-57, a Sukhoi 57 33030 by Reobrix. Slightly bigger, 1,556 pieces. And this thing is 57 centimeters in length and 41 in width. So this thing is huge, 13 in height. And again, goes in a very similar direction as the other ones. With that, we're moving on to TGL or TaiGaoLe, and I'm pretty sure I've entirely pronounced this wrong. This was again an announcement by BlueBrixx. Usually what BlueBrixx is doing, because very often these companies don't have a trademark or don't have a licensing deal. Obviously, this is, I think, a Ford GT, actually very similar to the one that Lego has done. However, this thing is entirely different size. So it's a 1/8 scale. It has 3,000 pieces, and the scale and the piece count has really helped because this thing actually looks like a GT. But again, I'm pretty sure TGL doesn't have a deal with Ford, so compared to Lego. However, I think you can see it's almost 3 times the piece count. It's a much more accurate car. You can actually, I think, see the GT. I think the Ford from Lego, I've actually built that one. That had the big issue that actually did not look like the current GT at all. There was a license deal, but they had just a problem with the proportions around the wheels, basically, right? Where we often with these cars, you start from the wheel set and then you scale it up. But actually, this hasn't worked out in my point of view with the Lego Ford GT. It actually looked more than the original GT. So from my point of view, and I think I said this in the past, Lego should have gone. Not with the current GT, but with the original. But anyhow, I think TGL has done a much better job simply because they had a lot more space to work with. With that, we're moving on to another car. Again, BlueBrixx has given this one generic name, the T5030. By the way, the other one was the 5042 by TGL. This is now the 5030. It's a 1/10 scale models, i.e. it's a lot smaller. And the picture is not loading. What is happening to my internet? Let's try this again. No, we have to live with one picture. Anyhow, this thing is 46 centimeters in length, 20 in width, 10 in height, has 2,111 pieces. And yeah, I mean, in general, I don't really like the overall color scheme, but what is even the bigger issue, TGL, like Lego, is using primarily blue as a Technic pin color. And this does not work at all or whatsoever for this car, right? While the other one, the blue one, the Ford GT, in quotes, again, keep in mind, they don't have a license, a dark blue vehicle works a lot better with regular blue pins than this one here does. So that's my personal issue with it. Besides that, I actually have no idea what car this is. So if you know, please write this into the comments. And with that, we are done with sets. Let's come to general industry news. Just as a quick update. So as many of you may know, Bricklink is down since last week, Friday, I think. And the original sentence has always been, or communication by Bricklink has always been this one: unusual activity. Since then, there has been a ton of speculation, leaks in quotes. However, nobody has any idea if they're actually authentic. On Reddit, there was a lot of stuff being published, but nothing officially. But technically, yes, the rumor is that Bricklink has been hacked. Of course, that's the big headline that a lot of news outlets are throwing out there. I have not taken part of that, but what we can say is that they have now updated their message that a very small percentage of our accounts may potentially have been accessed by unauthorized individuals, i.e. not Bricklink itself, but a couple of accounts have been hacked. If that means through Bricklink itself or just by stealing, accounts through other means, like, yeah, I mean, there are a million ways to get people's passwords. I mean, Bricklink, to my knowledge, is still entirely based on a pretty old school, username password mechanism, which I think is a bit outdated, and this kind of crap happens because exactly of that. But anyhow, it's just the way it is. The main reason why I bring this up, because there's not much to report on, but just keep in mind, if you have a Bricklink account and you are one of those folks who reuse passwords, I think it's a very good time to start changing your passwords. Just as a precaution, I'm not saying that there is an issue. Bricklink has actually not, I mean, I think they would have communicated if, passwords have been lost. So they haven't done so, and I assume they would, but nevertheless, better safe than sorry. At least I would change my passwords now very heavily if I'm the kind of person who reuses passwords and may have reused it with Bricklink. Anyhow, let's move on to MOCs of the week. And with that, we are starting with the Heavy Turbo Laser by Brick Nation, 476 pieces, which actually looks quite cool. He is asking for €7.50 roundabout. That's a bit on the higher price side, but I think it's a very nice design. I mean, it's not that complicated to make a turbo laser, but this thing has done very well. What I also really like, because I'm currently building an Endor MOC, and I'm really thinking about throwing maybe one or two of these bad boys in there, because what he has actually done here or suggested is with this diorama with all the plants on the bottom, this is like an air defense, if you will, or space defense, what do you call it? Air defense turret. So obviously we know all this thing from episode 4, from the Death Star trench run, but nevertheless, I think this is an interesting use of this concept of this laser. So here we go, $7.50 for this MOC. And then of course, Chris Romans has, as always, created a mini version of the new Lego modular, the Natural History Museum. I did reporting on this last week, the 10326. And actually they are managed to basically do a very good representation of this modular with only 521 pieces. And yeah, it's part of an enormous collection under this Bricklink account. They are asking for this modulars for £3. And I think it's money well spent. The only thing I always add as a disclaimer on these, don't underestimate how big they are. They look extremely tiny, but they are not that tiny. I mean, they are small compared to the original one. Just keep in mind it's 500 pieces. But nevertheless, I think it's still a lot less space than you would need for the entire modular. Plus, I mean, they have also done this for modulars that you cannot even buy anymore. Anyhow, let's move on to Gabizon. There we have another set in this new Egypt lineup, and this here is the Ancient Egypt Temple. It's $5 for a build with 3,841 pieces, and I really like the design. I think it's quite cool. What I even like more, no, I don't want to go on the inventory. Something is wrong with my internet today. Here we go. So Gabizon they have published, or he or she, actually don't know who exactly this is, but nevertheless, there have been multiple builds published. So there's an Ancient Egypt obelisk, a village, a market, and of course, as always, you can throw all of them together and have a very nice and large modular. Very nice building, or basically town, whatever you might call it. So a diorama, this is what I want to say. The interesting part, however, is why there is a lot of, great concept in this, and obviously a lot of pieces. For this build here, you would need 9,916 pieces. There's still a lot of room to bring in your own design language, extend the buildings, put in a lot more detail into this. So there's still lots of room for your own desires. Anyhow, let's move on to a great MOC, actually this third version already. So the Lego Wolfpack has updated his Juggernaut tank design. And I think, I always like this design, and it's getting even better. I think there's even now a second version, let's say, to use slightly cheaper pieces, I think especially around the wheels. So it's a great It's a great design. It's not 100% minifigure scale, which I like. I think there are a couple of very cool designs out there. Same is true for the ATTE full minifigure scale. The problem is these things get so large that you cannot put them into a MOC anymore, because they would basically just, overwhelm the entire MOC. I think you will be very hard pressed to put these things in minifigure scale into your MOC. Right? Which is actually an issue. I mean, a lot of folks are struggling. For instance, I'm building Endor right now. I would love to put in the UCS AT-AT, but there's no chance. This thing is far too big, and would basically kill the entire MOC. So I really like this approach. It's still pretty large, but not as large as it certainly could have been. With that, we're moving on to Winter Village Chocolate Factory, a design by BrickJoint. It has 1,937 pieces. He's asking for only $4. This is quite a bargain, I must say. And yeah, I mean, it doesn't have a back wall. It's just, just a diorama or just the front of the building. However, I really like this in case of a MOC with sets. I prefer completed buildings, but the coolest thing is basically what he's doing here with this approach is giving you a starting point, right? So now you have the building techniques, you have a rough design, and in theory, you could just buy more pieces and keep going, and to your own desires. And this is what I really like about, great MOC design, is not only to have a MOC, but also give people something to work with. And I think this is definitely true here in general. So yeah, I really like the design. It's quite nice and beautiful. I guess I would invest a bit more in tiles and slopes to cover up all these studs on the roof. But again, it's a starting point and you can keep going. So I really like this. And with that, we're moving on to a free of charge MOC design, which I personally really like, by BlueBrixx, The Rival of the Grey Wizard, a book nook. And this is a cool concept, because it is a book nook, but it's very reduced. I mean, there are book nooks out there who have like 3,000-4,000 pieces, like almost an entire modular in book nook format. This thing is a lot smaller. As you can see, it works quite well between, by the way, I guess it's a German designer. These are all German Lord of the Rings books, but so you can use it like this. You could use it as a starting point, again, to make it even bigger, make this like a diorama on its own. But even the design right now can be used not only as a book nook, but you can basically open it up and it looks more like a small diorama. And of course, because, it's in hinges and you can change this all the time, I don't know, if you have the books, you can use it as a book nook. If, I don't know, you have sold a couple, etc., then you open it up again because you have now the space. You're running out of space, throwing it back together. So at least, especially for folks who like to rearrange their bookshelves a little bit from time to time, this is, I think, a cool concept. With that, moving on to what Giant Looks is calling a Star Wars Temple playset. I mean, it's a Jedi Temple, that is for sure. It has 4,230 pieces, €12 over here. Everybody can buy it, right? It's digital. But anyhow, it's called a playset. What I think it's also a great diorama piece for your minifigure collection, because there's so many. I mean, if you have a large Jedi collection, for instance, or you could even, use several of the scenes, the purge of the Jedi Temple, if you will, at the end of season 3, put in a lot of clones, etc. So you can use this to display your Jedi Master collection. You can use this again to represent the battle around the Jedi Temple at the end of episode 3, or certain parts are also shown in Star Wars The Mandalorian. So this is really cool. Obviously, it's neither in any shape or form to scale, plus, of course, the entire arrangement of the Jedi Master's Council Room is entirely wrong, right? Because it should be on the pinnacle. On top and not here, but nevertheless, it's, I think, a nice combination. And I think it also looks quite decent in the front. Obviously it's a very simplistic design, but I guess it fits quite well. So again, also here, it could be a starting point to build the entire temple. In fact, if you use this thing twice, you have the temple basically, and you can then also decide to open it up to surprise people with all your minifigure collection perfectly arranged in this awesome Jedi Temple. Great stuff, great idea, great design. With that, we're moving on to SP Bricks, 270 Park Avenue. That's a 1x800 scale. The JP Morgan Chase building in New York. Actually, I think my understanding is, because I don't know this building, but my understanding is it's still work in progress. Is that correct? The interesting part is, especially compared to the BlueBrixx skyscrapers I talked about before, that these designs by SPBricks are 1/800 scale, so they do fit to a certain degree with Lego buildings, which I think is a good message or good news. 3,180 pieces. SPBricks is asking for €6. With that, we're moving on to another great design by Sereno90, the 10-4 service corridor. My understanding is that is this scene that we know from the beginning from episode 4, like Leia is transmitting the Death Star plans to R2-D2, and then the stormtroopers are coming. So this could be, you could basically do here different scenes, or at least these two scenes, I would argue, right? Leia covering, hiding, ambushing the stormtroopers, Leia giving the plans to R2-D2, stormtroopers are coming around the corner, stuff like that. The only thing is to keep in mind that there are no studs here on the floor, so if you want to attach your stormtroopers, etc., you may need to add a couple of plate modifieds, but nevertheless, $15 for 4,867 pieces in this MOC. With that, we're moving on to something, like I said before, that I really expect people to do with the Chinese set, is what Fanpesi did here for the Alpine Lodge, the 10325. It's technically maybe more like a modification, because it's not just throw in 2 of the Alpine Lodges. You need also 278 extra pieces. And in fact, you don't even have to buy the set, but I think the most efficient way is to buy the set twice, throw in an additional 280 pieces, and then you have a full-blown Christmas modular. I think I've said this before, this is what I would like Lego to go for in the Winter Village collection. Me personally, for sure, this would make these sets a lot more expensive, but Winter Village collection, I would really love if they would do like a second modular series per year, so you get one regular modular and then one Winter Village modular. This would be a dream come true for me, and actually would make me more interested in the Winter Village collection, because I'm not such a big fan. The buildings are simply too small, and usually they're not even real buildings, just the front. Anyhow, let's move on to another micro diorama from Jelco, the Echo Base from episode 5. And yeah, I mean, again, as always, I'm really excited by these designs. I mean, this thing zooms a lot more in than many other Jelco designs, but nevertheless, I mean, 3 X-Wings, perfect size, they look really great. I mean, they are basically like these micro fighters from Lego, right? And yeah, you have the workshop here, and it looks like folks are really busy. You have with using these 1x1 round bricks. They're even minifigures in quotes included here, which I really like. Great design, and again, only 1,164 pieces, so that's not really not much. $6 for the instruction manual. Anyhow, I hope you liked the show. For those of you who watch this on, I don't know, wherever you watch this or hear this on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you see this, please do me the favor, like the show, rate, comment, subscribe, whatever it is called on the platform of your choice. And with that, thanks for listening. See you next week.